the fate.
This is the way. The truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you're relentless.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into superhero movies, blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Devin. And today, we're going to be reviewing episode 5 of Moon Knight, which is titled Asylum, that is now streaming on Disney+. And before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at FilmOptix. That is Optix with an X. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie-related questions. And just a heads up for you guys, my voice has been a little bit raspy these past few days. I've been feeling a little bit under the weather. So this is actually a after recording. Kind of wanted to nix our original intro because I did not sound good whatsoever. And I don't think your ears would have thanked you for that recording. So without any further delay, we'll be right back after this introduction to Moon Knight episode 5.
I'm losing it.
We'll catch you on. You're bloody useless, Stevie.
Stephen. I can't tell the difference between life and dreams.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back with our Moon Knight episode 5 review, which is titled Asylum, aka the penultimate episode here of this latest Disney series, mini-series, I guess you can say, according to IMDb. I would actually probably have to agree with that because, I mean, 6 episodes is pretty short. Like, so imagine if every like Netflix show was 6 episodes and that was it. That's all you got.
Yeah, I think they had to call it a miniseries because there isn't a season 2 confirmed. There's no Oscar Isaac confirmed beyond this.
That is very true. Yeah, it's weird because I just don't understand what their process is, but like, apparently today I was scrolling through Twitter and they have Marvel has some kind of retreat for Marvel Studios for like the next 10 years. I was like, I want to be on that retreat. Come on, Kevin Feige, let's go.
Where's the invite? They're probably in Cabo or something.
Probably in Egypt, just getting inspiration from from Moon Knight. Yeah. So I'm going to pass it over to Devin so he can give his initial reactions of Moon Knight episode 5 again. We usually get into initial reactions, spoilers, then Easter eggs, because there are a few in this one for sure. Final thoughts, and then ratings. Again, I apologize, guys. My voice is shot. It is shot for some reason, but again, I'm going to power through this. So I'm going to pass it over to Devin so he can give his initial reactions to Moon Knight episode 5.
Yeah, I'll even read the synopsis for you real quick. Mark and Steven search through their memories to find their truth or become left behind. That's weird phrasing, actually. IMDb, their synopsis is just...
They're short and sweet.
But, well, they're not very effective, I'd say.
No.
But anyways, it's just a great overall emotional episode for Mark, our boy Mark. Did not expect it to be so emotional, to be honest. Didn't expect there to be so many reveals about his past that came to life when he's trying to reconcile with Steven about their souls being possibly taken to the great unknown. It's just a great episode that shows their relationship, Mark and Steven, that being. We get some nice hippo action. It's always great to see. She looks so great. Like, I don't know how they designed her so well. Some great flashbacks. We get a good amount of questions answered, I should say. There's still a couple mysteries left, but I'm sure we'll find out next week. The only real negative I had about this one was no Layla. It's just a very sad moment for me. But I know she'll have her triumphant return next week in the finale, because they did name drop her, of course, because she's got to save the day. she's the one that it's all coming down to.
She is Lara
She's
Croft.
the hero. Exactly.
Layla Croft.
She's finding the lost artifact, basically. But yeah, it was a great penultimate episode, like we mentioned. It just really shows what caused Mark to be this way and why he has possibly this mental disorder. And it's not just, oh, it's a superpower that he has this disorder. No, it's because of real like trauma that he has in his past, and they're taking it seriously, which is very good.
I would definitely agree with you there. As far as my initial reactions, I also, shocker, love this episode. I really love it's kind of like, the turning point for all these characters, because, whether it's Spider-Man or, WandaVision, or Wanda, I should say, or Loki, or even Hawkeye, they all have these pivotal moments that really pushes them forward to define who they are as, not even just, as whatever mantle they're taking up, but who they are as a person. You kind of mentioned last week that a lot of these Marvel shows, or Disney shows, I guess, what's the difference, right? They kind of go through this essentially like this rite of passage, or, facing their demons, which is a very Christian type way of thinking of things. When you are facing your demons, you do come out stronger on the other side. We talked about the hero's journey last week as well. And I think it's just beautiful. We really it's amazing. There's all these like defense mechanisms that Mark was able to, build around his life to essentially protect him. And, just everything that you learn about Mark's past really explains who he is as a person today. Not everything is an excuse, but, down to the core of who he is and, what he's been going through. During the beginning of this journey so far, we kind of thought that Mark was more of just like a D-bag in a way, just kind of like it is what it is. But obviously, Mark is the original, but, and how Steven was created. And, like you said, no Layla this episode, which is kind of sad, but there are a few Easter eggs here and there that they still have to address in general, which is what I really enjoyed about it. And nice few Black Panther Easter eggs in there as well. I'm not sure if you caught that.
Yeah, nice mention.
Yeah, that was really cool.
The ancestral plane.
Yeah, and I really like how, it's, we'll get into it here a bit with into spoilers here in a bit, but overall it's just, the journey that Mark is taking right now. And this episode does a really great job, a phenomenal job of keeping us guessing of what real and actually is what fake. But I think by the end of this episode, we kind of make that, they kind of make that clear of what is real and what is not. But I still have my suspicions, which I'm not entirely sure, but it is what it is. But I mean, this was about Oscar Isaac acting against himself this entire episode for the most part. And, he nailed it. The hippopotamus looks fantastic. I do apologize. I'm blanking on her name right now.
Aurette.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who voices her, but I really love her chemistry, just her presence there. She is serving more as a guide, but not in a very pleasant way as much as she would like to be.
Aurette is voiced by Antonia Salib.
Oh, okay, nice. Is that anyone we know? I don't think so. The name doesn't sound familiar, but yeah, and of course, Ethan Hawke, great as always. I really like where they're taking this story, and I've seen a lot of people online, a lot of people talking that this might be their favorite MCU series so far. And honestly, everyone to each their own, but this is definitely a top tier for sure. And I think it's because it doesn't waste time trying to connect to other instances within the MCU. And I think that's what made Daredevil so great as well. The 3 seasons that we get, and of course with Defenders, we know it's a part of the Marvel universe. Daredevil really just focuses on him as a character and his supporting cast and the people within his lives. It doesn't really worry about, like we have to mention this to remind people that it's, connected to the greater MCU. We don't need to have all these crazy references, but obviously, this is a little bit different. I mean, there obviously are references, like we said, for the ancestral plane. And I really like how Aret mentioned how, it's not, well, actually, before I get into it here, hold on one second, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into our spoiler section. So
yeah, we're starting to get into that.
Yeah, that is your first spoiler warning for Moon Knight episode 5. Again, that is your second spoiler warning for Moon Knight episode 5. So if you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. It's definitely worth a watch. I think I actually might rewatch this one again myself. I actually had to wait until a little bit later in the day to see this one as well, just because, work was busy, didn't really have time to do it in the morning. So I stayed off Twitter until, I was able to watch it when I could, and I did. And I'm glad that I did, for sure. Cause it really makes me feel like, how like Eleven's crying at the end of Stranger Things 3, when she's reading the note from Hopper. It was that and more. It was really
when Steven got sandified. That
was crazy. It's so insane how much goes on within this. But as I was saying before, before I accidentally almost spoiled it in our non-spoiler section, but I really like how Aret was able to, it's not the afterlife, as, Mark was asking. It's like, she's like, oh, it's more of a afterlife, as in implying that there are multiple ones, and how, they do cross over between each other from time to time. And I really like how they were able to, depending on your, beliefs as a religious person, no matter what religion that you are, everyone has their own afterlife that you're able to pass on to, which was actually kind of cool. I like how they handled that for sure, especially Disney being Disney sometimes, but, it is what it is, not trying to force certain religions on others when, because, people do believe in, the Egyptian gods. So that was very fitting for the show. But so Steven gets dusted. Technically, well, he gets sanded.
He'll be back.
He gets sanded. He'll be back. But we never saw Jake. I thought that that's
the biggest remaining mystery.
I was very interested because, when they during the beginning of the episode, it was amazing how that, Ethan Hawke, what can't this man do?
No, this episode went pretty dark. Like for the MCU, it had some pretty dark themes, but they could go even darker if they introduced the third identity as somebody who killed Mark's brother.
Was it Wanda?
I mean, Jake, whatever the name ends up being, but it could be an identity that actually wanted to kill Mark's brother. And Mark doesn't even know.
Yeah, because we see the third sarcophagus in episode 4, but, they kind of just glance over it. They kind of spend a little bit of time there. And, when they're having their souls judged, I thought that, when they're saying, it's incomplete, you have to kind of essentially confront, let all the skeletons out of the closet. I thought, because there was room for like one more heart in that, so when Aret's weighing their hearts on the scale with the feather, there's room for one more.
She just yoinked those hearts out of their chest too. I was like, wow, that was something.
She was like, oh, let me just, excuse me really quick. I forgot to do this earlier. And she's like, oh, I'm glad I didn't like rip your bodies apart while doing that. But, it's a hippo god. So it's like, she's so kind and just so polite. It's hard not to it's hard to get mad at her actually. So it was pretty intense. But, we find out that Steven is essentially a defense mechanism from the childhood trauma that Mark went through after losing his brother. And the
Disney and their moms, they always hate their moms.
You're right. Theory confirmed. Very confirmed. Unless, Wanda had a pretty nice childhood until, the bombings happened, but.
Yeah, and then she was a mom and then lost them. So it's like, she's not the best mom.
So she's the worst mom. She's not the best mom. She's getting them back. Oh, she's getting them back. Definitely. I got to rewatch WandaVision before Multiverse of Madness comes out. I'm very, very excited. But I wanted to pass it back over to Devin. If there's anything you wanted to talk about that we haven't yet for this episode.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see the actual background of Mark and his family, because everybody assumed that his mom was actually dead and that Steven was just talking to nobody. But I don't think anybody would have guessed that it went back like this far and that it was this depressing for Mark. Like just having a mom that disapproved of him even existing for the most part because of a terrible accident that happened with him and his brother, and then just being abused. Like it's actually like shocking to see like in an MCU show, like child abuse. We don't see it, but you see
she brought out the belt.
Yeah, and just having to live with that. And then he switches to Steven in order to take that punishment because he can't handle it because he's just a kid.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where possibly his identity disorder develops and becomes prominent, and then doesn't come back again until much later on, according to Mark. I think he said after I don't remember the name of it, but was it after the Jewish wake type of thing that he was at where it happened?
Oh, when Steven like started kind of taking over again.
Yeah, when he took over after like a long break.
Yeah. Because, it's tough because, your mother's blaming you for the death of your brother, when it was indirectly his fault because he was just a child. But it's like, that's a pretty traumatic thing to go through. And on top of that, like, when it comes to, the whole parents beating on children thing, like, them using the belt, I think was the best way to do it instead of, they don't like show it, but like it is implicit, obviously. But yeah, I think that is when it starts happening because after his mom dies, there's so many unresolved issues between them. And, we kind of see throughout Mark's years after his brother's, death, when when Mark and Steven are going soul searching through Mark's past, you really start to see, just what he had to go through. His mother just said, like, it's all your fault, like that type of situation, and just flat out blaming Mark for everything.
I love how they showed Mark standing by that taxi in the beginning, and we didn't know what it was or what he was doing. And then they go back to that scene at the end, and it's just kind of really devastating to see.
It really, it's terrible because after, obviously he still loved his mother, like, and, him and his father seemed to be on really great terms. And, during his mother's death, it's almost as if, even when Steven finds out, it's like, when he split his personality, it's like Steven never knew that his mom was, had passed away. And that's when we get the whole Laters Gators thing, after a while, crocodile type thing. So that's pretty fitting, especially for Amit. But it really is a powerful episode. Like, I shedded a tear here or there, but like, it really just, I don't think I felt this way about like a Marvel character or just any superhero character.
I don't think anybody expected it either. Like for it to go back and just be this like devastating for him.
Yeah. Cause like Wanda's is like my number one for like the longest time. Cause she's going through like a lot, and obviously, she's not in full control of her powers. She's still learning about her powers. I guess if you can say the best traumatic, it's up there with WandaVision. It might even be better because, like you just said, we didn't know that it was coming at all, and we kind of knew it was coming with Wanda because we knew going into that series that she was mourning the death of Vision, but. That show.
This one just feels more. It feels more layered.
Yeah, it feels more layered.
More to it, and
it feels just a little bit. Obviously, it feels more realistic, honestly. Because it's not like, oh, you're not gonna, grow up like Wanda and then have these like Scarlet Witch abilities, but like something that happened with Steven, outside of the whole Khonshu Moon Knight situation, that could very well happen to somebody who's using, their mother's or a person's death the split personality is like a defense mechanism type thing, which is crazy to think about. And that kind of calls back to what Ethan Hawke was saying during the beginning of the episode where, when people go through traumatic events, they often create a safe place. And it's not that Mark had a safe place. It's that it was like himself in a way, you know what I mean? Like he kind of just buried it deep within himself. I mean, the psych ward, sure, because Mark's known about
and
this.
I love how the plane that they were on, the existence that they were on, that was the reality, and then the psych ward was like what they were making up in their head. Like that's such a reversal of what it usually is. And even I think even Steven commented on it. He was like, "Really, this is reality? This is the real world?"
Yeah, it's great. I loved how they were able to go back and forth because, like I said earlier, like you really don't know, because during the beginning of the episode, when they meet Tauret, they're screaming, and then it automatically transitions to Arthur's office. You're like, wait, what? So I thought that was very, very clever. But overall, just a genius, a stroke of genius episode for sure. I can't wait for the season finale. Honestly, I wish we would get like a few more episodes of this. I mean, I'm not sure if we'll get a season 2. I mean, if we don't, I'm kind of okay with that. But I am interested. I think the two things on the back of everyone's mind is, when is Jake Lockley coming in? Because when is the third personality? Because they still have to address that. And the second thing would be, how does this connect to the greater MCU? I mean, it could be set very well more so in the past. We don't really know. But
I think it's going to happen during Love and Thunder, just because of all the gods connections.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty good idea, like how they're kind of mix and matching, Greek, Norse, and Egyptian gods all together, which is pretty cool. But was there anything else you wanted to mention before we get into I feel like we've already done final thoughts, so I guess we can get into ratings and close on out here.
Yeah, overall, another great episode. Their series is just continuing to ramp up, as you mentioned, from the beginning where we didn't really know what was going on, and then we just kept getting more information and more background on these characters, and the more we got, the more we wanted, and we're getting everything we wanted so far. Just gotta hope the finale nails it, which has been a bit of an issue for the up series. The finale isn't as strong as the penultimate. I'd say Loki's probably the only one where it was like comparable.
Yeah,
just because that finale was really, really well done,
and we knew we were getting a season 2.
Yeah. But other than that, I give this one a strong 95. Yeah. The only issue being no Layla Croft. Come back, Queen.
Come back, Queen. Yeah, for sure. I'm honestly right there with you, man. Like 95 for me as well. Really enjoyed this episode altogether, and it's just it's been a great ride so far. And I honestly, like at this point, I would nominate Oscar Isaac for an Emmy nomination for sure for Best Actor.
He's just so good. This is why you get Oscar Isaac, because
yeah,
I don't think anyone else could do this character justice.
I mean, between like Lupita Nyong'o and us, Oscar Isaac and this, and even oh my gosh, the girl who played Pearl and Maxine, Mia Goth in X, and many others. It's great how you're able to reuse the same people, and they're able to act against each other, which is really, really, especially with CGI for Oscar Isaac. That's very, very difficult to do. But yeah, overall, just 95, solid 95 from both of us there for this episode of Moon Knight. So that pretty much concludes this week's episode. We will not be recording anything over the weekend. Sorry, no memory. Starring Liam Neeson, as I mentioned before in the last episode, or I believe, the last episode that we did. What was that for? Oh, The Northman. That's right. I will be moving this coming up week, so yeah, I'm kind of taking a break from that. But we will be back for Moon Knight episode 6, of course, and then hopefully we'll get back to some kind of normalcy. But overall, great episode. So, what is coming up on the podcast? You might ask. So as I just mentioned, we have our Moon Knight episode 6, or the finale that is coming out on the podcast, which is it's going to be a lot of fun. And then of course next week also we have Doctor Strange and Multiverse and Madness Got that coming up as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely check out our reviews for Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Northman, and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. All are up on the podcast for everyone to listen to. I promise your ears will thank you. And as well as we closed out our franchise revisited series of the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. So that's going to be up on the up on the podcast for everyone to listen to as well. Not sure if we're doing anything for May 4th for Star Wars Day. We'll see. I mean, Kenobi it's very busy, Devin. Like, I was adding things to our calendar. We have, as of this recording, we have 1 month to Obi-Wan Kenobi. We have 1 month till Stranger Things 4. And then after that, I believe Miss Marvel comes up soon, Umbrella Academy, and The Boys season 3.
It's all very exciting stuff, though.
Yeah, and I believe we're still doing our Halo series review. I gotta get caught up on that one, but I'm gonna get caught up.
Last episode was good. They got back on track.
Let's hope it stays that way. But yeah, so before we close out here, we just want to ask you guys one teeny little favor, and that is to share an episode of our podcast with a friend, whether it be your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share an episode of the Film Optix podcast with a movie lover in need. So that is a wrap for today, everyone. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Devin. My name is Christian. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace.
Light is gay is.